Yuki and Kyojuro traveled together, enjoying the beautiful scenery as they walked to Kyojuro's home. The two talked and laughed for hours as they got closer and closer to his home. The closer they got, the more nervous Yuki became. Kyojuro had told her stories about his father and how rash he could be. She hoped she would make a good first impression on him. "Are you getting nervous?" Kyojuro asked, noticing her go quiet as she thought to herself. "Is it that obvious?" she asked right back, looking back up at Kyojuro. "I mean, you were staring off into space for a couple of minutes, almost like you were getting lost in thought." Yuki let out a sigh as she continued to walk. "Sorry. I guess I can't help but be nervous. After all of the stories you told me about your father, I'm worried I'll make a bad first impression, and he won't approve of me." "I understand your worries, but I believe that my father will grow to enjoy your company as much as I do." "I hope you're right." The two continued to walk for a bit longer, and they soon spot Kyojuro's family home just ahead of them. Its traditional Japanese style was beautiful, matching the landscape that surrounded them. The entrance was lined with wisteria flowers to ward off any demons that dared to come close. The two of them made their way to the door of the estate, before Kyojuro took Yuki's hand, giving it a comforting squeeze to try and calm her nerves. "Are you ready to meet my family?" "As ready as I'll ever be," she responded, taking a deep breath to ease herself as much as she could. With that response, Kyojuro raised his hand to the door, giving it a few firm knocks. A few moments pass before the door opens, revealing a younger kid who was maybe 14 to 15 years old. He looked like a younger version of Kyojuro. The boy's face lit up when he saw Kyojuro. "Brother, you're back. I've missed you so much." Kyojuro couldn't help but smile at his younger brother, gently ruffling his hair. "I've missed you too, Senjuro. I'm glad to see you in good health and good spirit." Kyojuro glanced at Yuki before continuing to talk to his brother. "Senjuro, I'd like to introduce you to Yuki. She's a fellow Hashira, and also my girlfriend." Senjuro smiled at Yuki, offering her his hand to shake. "It's nice to meet you, Yuki. I've heard great things about you from Kyojuro in his letters." Yuki chuckled at his friendly nature, gently taking his hand and shaking it. "It's nice to meet you too, Senjuro. I've also heard many things about you from Kyojuro." "Come inside, you two. I prepared some food for your arrival," Senjuro said, pulling the both of them inside the family home. Yuki looked up at Kyojuro, her gaze filled with surprise. "Did you let them know that we were coming?" "I might have sent a crow to give them a heads up," he said with a smirk. Yuki chuckled as they walked further into the estate, following behind Senjuro. "I should have known. You always have some sort of trick up your sleeve." The two of them followed Senjuro into the dining room, seeing the large amount of food that Senjuro had prepared and set at the table. There were 4 plates that were set up, one for Yuki, one for Kyojuro, one for Senjuro, and one for their father. "You guys take a seat. I'll go get father and let him know you both are here." Senjuro smiled as he walked deeper into the home, going to look for his father. Kyojuro sat down at the table and offered Yuki the seat next to him. Yuki smiled as she sat down, but she could feel the anxiety building up in her mind again. She took a deep breath to calm herself, and felt as Kyojuro grabbed her hand and gave it a tight squeeze. He could tell she was nervous, and did his best to silently comfort her. She smiled at him, but her attention was drawn away by the 2 sets of footsteps coming from the hallway. One of the sets sounded light, and Yuki knew it was Senjuro's, but the other set was loud and heavy, nearly drowning out the smaller set as they drew closer to the dining room. Yuki was going to say something to Kyojuro, but she soon heard a rough, gravelly voice coming from the hall.
"I don't give a damn if they are here or not. Why can't you just leave me alone?"
"Because Kyojuro really wants you to meet Yuki. She's so nice, and Kyojuro seems so happy with her."
"I told you that I don't care. Now let go of my arm."
Right as that sentence finished, a crisp slapping sound came from the hall. Yuki shot up from the table, rushing to see what was happening. When she stood in the hallway, She saw Senjuro on the floor, holding back tears as he held his face, his father standing above him with a scowl.
What the hell do you think you're doing?
Yuki screamed, kneeling down to Senjuro and pulling him into her arms to check on him. The older man looked furious to see this girl and raised his voice.
Who the hell are you? Why are you in my home without my permission?
Who am I? Who are you to think you can abuse your own son? Yuki screamed right back, holding Senjuro tightly.
Oh, I get it. You're that Hashira Kyojuro keeps blabbing about. How pathetic.
And you must be Shinjiro. I've heard a lot about you too, but I never expected you would hurt your own child. Kyojuro could feel the tension in the room as he just watched what was unfolding. He knew he shouldn't intervene, but he didn't know what was going to happen between Yuki and his father.
You have no right to tell me how to treat my child. If you think you have any authority over me, you can fight me to prove yourself.
Kyojuro's eyes went wide hearing his father's challenge for Yuki, and decided it was finally time for him to intervene. Father, there is no need for this.
Stay out of this, Kyojuro,
Shinjiro shouted before he got into Yuki's face.
My business is with this wannabe Hashira in front of me.
Wannabe? Oh, I'll show you wannabe. I accept your challenge. Kyojuro and Senjuro were looking back and forth between each other and the verbal argument between Yuki and their father.
Good. You have 5 minutes to prepare yourself,
Shinjiro said, before turning around and walking to his bedroom. Yuki could feel her anger growing and felt her powers trying to activate. She placed a hand on her head, massaging her temples as she spoke to Kyojuro. Hey, Kyo, do you have any of my medicine on you? Kyojuro's eyes filled with worry as he walked up to her. I do. Do you want to step aside to take some? Yuki could only nod her head. Kyojuro could see how much she was struggling to hold her powers back. He quickly pulled her into an empty room and pulled out a small vial of her medicine. Do you have a syringe? Yes, I have one. She took the syringe and quickly drew some of the purple medicine into it before injecting it into her arm. After a minute, she could feel her body beginning to relax. Thank you, she muttered, taking a breath to fully calm herself down. Of course, my love. Are you okay? I'm all right. I wasn't expecting your father to hit Senjuro like that, though. It just made my blood boil. I understand. But are you really going to battle my father? Someone quietly knocked on the door of the room they were in, before Senjuro poked his head inside. Is everything okay? He asked, his gaze filled with concern for Yuki. Yes, Senjuro. Everything is fine. Yuki reassured, before kneeling in front of Senjuro. I was just really mad and needed a minute to calm myself down. Are you doing okay? She asked, gently placing a hand on his face, inspecting where his father had hit him. I'm all right, Yuki. Don't worry about me. He reassured her right back, giving her a soft smile before it fell. Are you really going to battle him? Yuki's smile fell as he asked. I don't think I have a choice. You know you don't have to do it, Yuki. Yes, I do, Senjuro. I have to prove to him that I am worthy of my position as a Hashira. I worked hard to get where I am right now, and I'm not going to let a few words disprove that. I will prove myself to him with my actions, because actions speak louder than words. Kyojuro gently placed a hand on her shoulder, drawing Yuki's attention back to him once again. If you really think you must, then I won't stop you. But please, don't overdo it, and be careful. Don't worry, Kyojuro. I'll be careful. She took his hand, giving it a light squeeze as she smiled at him. We should head out. Let's not keep your father waiting. The three of them walked into their backyard and saw the training grounds that were outside, as well as Shinjiro standing there with a Nichiren sword.
I'll admit that you have a lot of guts to come out here and fight against me,
he spoke, glaring at Yuki, who had now walked to the other side of the training grounds. I'm not going to back down from a challenge and tarnish my honor as a Hashira. I worked hard to get to the position I am right now, and I'm not gonna let one negative opinion change that.
So be it. Bring it on. I'm not going to lose to a child like you.
Shinjiro quickly lunged forward with his sword in hand. Yuki charged forward with her two swords as well, clashing her blades with Shinjiro's. The two began to fight with great intensity. Despite Shinjiro not using his sword in a long time, he was able to keep pace with Yuki's attacks. The fight between the two of them went on for quite a while, but eventually, with one good and powerful strike, Yuki managed to knock Shinjiro to the ground. She walked towards him, sheathing her swords before offering a hand to him. You fought well, Mr. Rengoku. Here, let me help you up. Shinjiro looked up at Yuki, seeing the warm smile on her face. He hesitated for a moment, looking like he realized something. He snapped out of his thoughts before giving her a smile and taking her hand. Yuki pulled him up, but the next words she heard him say were the words she didn't expect at all.
You remind me so much of Amy.
Yuki's eyes widened at those words. I remind you of my mother? She asked incredulously.
Yes, you have the same personality as her. I didn't realize that you were her child at first, but I can see it now. I'm so sorry, Yuki.
Yuki was stunned by the apology, but she offered her hand out for him to shake. It's all right, Mr. Rengoku. I accept your apology, she said as she warmly smiled, waiting for him to take her hand. Shinjiro smiled and took her hand, giving it a firm shake.
Thank you, Yuki. Please, feel free to call me Shinjiro,
he said as he let go of her hand. He picked up his sword off the ground, putting it back in its sheath before looking at Yuki.
Now, please excuse me. I have some reflecting I need to do,
he said, beginning to walk towards Kyojiro and whispering in his ear.
I understand why you want to marry her, and I give you my blessing.
Kyojiro smiled and whispered back to his father. Thank you, father. I can't wait to see her reaction later tonight. Shinjiro nodded, saying one last thing before walking back inside the home.
Good luck, Kyojiro.
Shinjiro ran up to Yuki after his father walked inside and gave her a tight hug. That was amazing! You fight so well! Yuki hugged him back, chuckling at his excitement. Thank you, Shinjiro. I'm glad you thought so. Kyojiro watched for a moment before walking up to Yuki and tapping her on the shoulder. Yuki, would you like to see the rest of the house? Shinjiro smiled up at Kyojiro, winking at him as Yuki turned her head towards Kyojiro. If you don't mind showing me around, I'd love to see the rest of your home. Wonderful. I did want to spend some time alone with you tonight, so I think this would be the perfect opportunity for us, as long as Shinjiro doesn't mind. Shinjiro smiled. I don't mind, Kyojiro. I understand you want to spend some time alone with your girlfriend. Then let's go, Yuki said, chuckling as she grabbed Kyojiro's arm, pulling him with her as they walked. As they walked away, Kyojiro smiled as he thought to himself. Tonight is the night, Kyojiro. The night that could change our lives forever.